Yeah, I'm all for abolishing that, and I'm all for, putting the power of the Canadian Bank of Canada back in the hands of the people and all that. We only have a couple minutes left there, Jose. Could you briefly tell the listening audience again the different novels that you wrote and where people can actually go to find this stuff? And also, I like to ask every single guest, could you leave us with some contact information to our listening audience just in case someone has more questions to ask you? Because there's an awful lot of information we didn't even touch today that you've touched on in your numerous different books that you've written.
Absolutely, absolutely. If anyone wants to contact me or send me a question, I'm always happy to answer any questions the best that I can. If they like, they can get me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook, Jose Paulino. My thing is not set to privacy, so anyone can contact me. Also, if you want to send a private question or whatever it may be, you can send it to thefraud12@gmail.com. That's THEFRAUD12@gmail.com. And Reginald, what I'm doing now, what I'm working on is what's referred to as the first temperature. And what I mean by that is the first wave of information where I'm uncovering all of the frauds in our society. And it doesn't matter whether it's in the United States. I live in the United States, so I have to talk about stuff that's here. But the same thing goes on in Canada. As you've read my books, I'm sure that you're correlating everything that's happening here with what's happening there. But I wrote the conspiracy theory fraud. That was volume 1 because I think that it's such a farce when the people or the mainstream media starts talking about, well, this guy's a conspiracy theorist to try to take credibility away from the person. Then, of course, I wrote volume 2, the war on terror fraud, and that's self-explanatory. Then volume 3 is the fraud of money in banking, because I think it's very important that we understand our financial status and how we can empower ourselves to get out of debt, which I talk about in that book. Is very, very important for people to get out of debt. Stop using credit cards. Stop borrowing money. Stop doing this stuff. That is very, very detrimental to yourself and to the economy. And also, I have Scene 4, which is a book that I love and I'm in love with, and I think that we should also master, and that is Slaves by Law, which talks about the fraud of our legal system. And the same thing applies, I'm sure, in Canada. And I think that is very, very important for people to be able to step into a court without an attorney and be able to tell that judge how they're going to defend their case. And this is very important because the fraud of the legal system is what has us tied up. Could you imagine what would happen in this country if our legal system belonged to the people, where we can now file suits against people like George Bush and people like Zygmunt Brzezinski and these guys for treason against our country? I mean, that would be a fantastic thing, and it would put fear into the hearts of these middlemen who are serving an unknown master. And finally, I'm working right now on Scene 5, or Volume 5, which is the fraud of religion, which takes us back to religion, because I see a lot of people in the truth movement leave the New World Order, which is money, banking, and the state, and being controlled that way, and are praying for God or Jesus and falling right back into the old world order, which is the old form of control. So I try to clear that up and try to teach people how, look, all of this stuff is a fraud. It's been all set up to imprison you and enslave you. Learn the truth of everything. Know what information is out there, and cure yourself from the ills of ignorance.
Yeah, I'm someone that, I believe there is a higher being. However, is it when someone puts a church or another person in between you and the higher being, then I believe that that's a cult, and, it's set up to control people. In regards to Canada, we had a constitutional lawyer on recently, Sean Buckley, and he said the system up here in Canada, the way it's set up is that the prosecutors are supposed to be able to provide the defendant with ways to defend themselves. However, in reality, is that once you take the government to court up here in Canada, there's so many they'll throw so many procedures at you that it'll take you years to basically to put forth a case against the government, and they'll just run you dry of money. So he was saying that you had to have deep pockets in order to sue the government of Canada.
Oh, yeah, the same thing in the United States, same exact thing in the United States, and yet the government will sue you in the split of a dime, and they have all the resources at their fingertips to get to you. And that's one thing that maybe in a different show we could get into, is how the United States has set up corporations to become persons, to give them jurisdiction to sue people, and now you have this corporation powerful with all these big high-powered attorneys, and you are an individual and you don't have those resources, so of course the outcome is going to be to their favor. But we can talk about that some other time. And
thank you so much for coming on, Jose. That's Jose Paulino.
Thank you. I apologize for my stuttering and my silliness. I'm not the best orator. I'm a better writer than I am speaker, but I do apologize about that.
Well, you're very informative there, Jose. Thank you so much. It's Co-op Radio 102.7 FM CFRO, Monday Brown Bagger. We're going to take a quick break, throw on a musical piece, and then we will come back with our next guest.